Hello, and welcome back to the University of Suffolk's Business Solutions podcast, where we explore the real stories, real impact, and real opportunities created through apprenticeship pathways. I'm your host, Gemma O'Neill, and today I am joined by someone who has played a key role in shaping one of our newest programs, the Environmental Health Practitioner degree apprenticeship. I'm delighted to welcome Gemma O'Neill, Landlord Engagement and Operational Support Manager at East Suffolk Council, who has been instrumental in supporting the development of this apprenticeship and championing the talent within the local authority. Gemma, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Gemma. It's great to be here.
So before we dive into the apprenticeship, let's talk about you. So could you share a little about your career journey, how you came to work in local government, and eventually your move into your current role at East Suffolk Council?
Okay, where do I start? It was quite a long journey. So I'm not from an environmental health background, and this is the first time I'm working for the council. Once I completed my degree and master's, I was actually a teacher for 18 years in total. I went into secondary education and sixth form. I then dropped down to primary. I worked across primary schools. While I was there, I was a senior teacher. I was a Senko and sports coordinator, arts coordinator, you name it.
And how did you find the transition from secondary down to primary?
Terrifying, actually. With secondary and A-level students, they're a bit more predictable. And then once you drop down into primary, I went straight into year 2 and it was like herding cats, really. But great fun, really, really great fun. And actually, I absolutely loved it because you get to spend all day with the children. You got to see them grow throughout their time at primary school, which I just found hugely rewarding. And when I had my first son, primary school wasn't really the best place to find that work-life balance anymore. So I moved into higher education, where I was a senior lecturer for 5 years. I was a course leader. I revalidated and wrote several foundation degree programs and degree programs. So yeah, quite different. And yes, so just over a year ago now, I started working for the local authority. Again, just fancied a bit of a change, a new challenge, which I'm always up for. And so I now find myself as the operational support manager for a project called Safe Suffolk Renters.
So could you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Sure. So Safe Suffolk Renters was a Pathfinder project that was initially funded by MHCLG. There were several Pathfinder projects all over the country. Safe Suffolk Renters initially covered all Suffolk local authorities. And it was an opportunity to do something a bit different, be creative, find ways to engage with tenants, engage with landlords in a really positive way. So part of the project was around developing training for landlords. We have just had our 3rd annual conference in Bury St Edmunds, where we had over 200 landlords attend. We also engaged with tenants through social media, through radio and television adverts, through going out into the community as well, finding out really what our private rented sector in Suffolk is all about and the experiences people have of being a landlord and a tenant.
Fantastic. So how did that transpire that you then started working with the university on the Environmental Health Practitioner apprenticeship course?
So I think part of my role and the reason why I was brought into the team was because of my educational background and understanding how degree level courses work. And I think part of the project gave the opportunity to really look at local authorities and think about skills gaps in relation to new legislation that was coming down the road at the time. So when I joined the team, I think quite quickly from speaking to people within the local authority, it was clear that actually we don't have enough environmental health officers. It's quite hard to recruit environmental health officers. And so when the opportunity came with the funding that was given by Office for Students to accelerate some of these apprenticeships in areas where there was low uptake but high need, Safe Suffolk Renters were very excited to become involved in that because, again, the project allowed us to. So really, that's how we got involved. We were in contact with yourselves and we wanted to support you with the expertise within our team, but also bring in my knowledge of curriculum development and really the idea around transferable skills and what the sector needs right now.
That's great. So, could you just tell us a little bit more about the colleagues that were able to support you as well within the apprenticeship?
Yes, absolutely. As I've said, environmental health is absolutely not my background. So when it came to subject specific knowledge, I definitely didn't have that. But luckily, within my team, we have some very, very knowledgeable and experienced environmental health practitioners. So, to help build the content of the apprenticeship, we utilised those skills. So, we had a senior environmental health officer look over the curriculum content, but also draw on their own experience and think, what do we need in our apprentices? What sort of skills, what sort of things they're going to be dealing with, and built that in. One of the big things that I really pushed for was around professionalism and professional skills. These are so important, I think, in any apprenticeship or any course or any job, and they're transferable skills worth developing. So, knowing how to have a conversation with a member of the public, knowing how to interact with colleagues in a professional manner, I think all of these things are absolutely crucial to the success of any apprentice moving through an apprenticeship when it comes to finding employment at the end of it. Because if they have those sociable skills, those professional skills, then it makes them a lot more employable.
It really does. Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So it was fantastic working with you and your colleagues on this. So the employer insight, it really helped shape the program and the aspects of the environmental health practitioner apprenticeship. It is something that we do try to do with all our apprenticeships, is to invite local employers in so that we understand the needs of the employers and make sure that we're putting in exactly what it is that they're looking to get out of their apprentices. So what particularly was important for you when you were helping us design that apprenticeship?
Like I said, I think it just really needed to be reflective of the current sector and the current needs of the sector. Environmental health is such a broad area to work in. You have within that things around food safety, you have environmental protection, but my area really is around sort of property and making sure people have safe, healthy homes. And again, I go back to my project, Safe Suffolk Renters. That's one of the things that we've really been focused on. We've done research into this idea around health and housing and how housing can have this huge impact, not just on physical health, but also mental health of people that live in the homes. And one of the things that I was particularly interested in was around how having an unhealthy home can impact on children, especially from my background, and how it can have a really big impact on lost school days. And if you think about this, it then could have a lifelong impact because if they're losing school days, then they may not achieve as highly, which could impact them in the future. So I think developing environmental health practitioners that can have these interactions with people who can understand how people are living and their crucial role in improving the lives of everybody is just really important.
And that's things that you don't necessarily think of when you're thinking about environmental health practitioner, is actually the impact that that does actually have and how crucial this role actually is. So East Suffolk Council has had a strong record of using apprenticeships and to build and retain talent. So how do you see apprenticeships contributing to your workforce strategy moving forward?
I think apprentices are brilliant. I really do. I think apprenticeships are the way forward, to the point where I would always actually encourage my own children to go into apprenticeships. As long as they develop one in dinosaur training, then it'll be
We'll
fine.
work on that.
Yeah. I think it's a great way because you're not only learning content through studying, you're learning a huge amount from your more experienced colleagues. It gives young people an opportunity to develop all those skills, but also just to make those contacts for the future as well. You might go into an apprenticeship and realise at the end of it, you want to go into a completely different area of work. And that's fine, actually, because coming back to those transferable core skills that I think are really crucial, it would allow an apprentice to do that. At East Suffolk Council, we want to keep our apprentices, we want to develop them, we want to offer them pathways to further and higher education, and actually have this really strong, skilled workforce that can then support the next generation coming through as well.
Fab. Lovely. And so, from your own experience, what do you see in apprentices as they progress?
I think for me, it's the confidence. actually. Sometimes when apprentices start, they're quite nervous. It might be their first job in, especially East Suffolk is a sort of big organisation, lots of people, lots of different roles. But I also think it's a great place to work. And I think it's a really supportive community in which to work in. There's lots of support for apprentices. There's lots of people who are willing to step up to be mentors and support our apprentices. And I think there's a really good structure there to support them. And when you said about mentors, again, that's something that's fundamental with apprenticeships, is that when an apprentice starts, obviously they will be assigned a mentor from the company, from their employer. And I know the East Suffolk Council are massive advocates of apprenticeships, which is absolutely fabulous, which is something that we're hoping that other businesses get behind as well. So looking ahead, what opportunities do you see for apprenticeships? So not just environmental health, but across government more broadly? I think there's great opportunity there. I think, the levy is there for a reason, and I think that it should be used to give opportunities to young people, but also to develop workforces from within as well. It's a great way to learn and earn. And like I said, if you're in an environment where you have got colleagues who are experienced and skilled, you can learn so much from them. And when I speak to my apprentices, I actually think that's where most of their learning comes from. Within East Suffolk, we encourage things like job shadowing. So within environmental health, actually going out with practitioners, seeing what it's like to go out and do a property inspection, for example, and get those really hands-on skills quite early could really help somebody develop their career.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And finally, what advice would you give to someone considering a career in environmental health or thinking about joining East Suffolk Council as an apprentice?
Do both of them. I think East Suffolk Council, personally, I think it's a great place to work. I really enjoy working there. I have some amazing colleagues, and some of my colleagues have become friends, which is really fantastic. With regards to environmental health, I think it's such a varied role. You can do the apprenticeship and choose lots of different areas to go into. And I think with environmental health as well, you could go into one area for some time and then you can change to another potentially. So there is that variation there. I don't think you're going to get bored being an environmental health officer, but I do think you need to be prepared for hard work, maybe some very quick learning when it comes to interacting with the public, because sometimes you may be there in a high stress situation, but also it's hugely rewarding. I think when you see the impact you're having and the positive impact you can have on somebody's life and how you can help them to become more healthy.
Brilliant. So, Gemma, thank you so much for joining us today and everything you've contributed to the apprenticeship development and to the future of environmental health within our region, within Suffolk, and hopefully expanding beyond. So, thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Apprenticeships in Action. And if you'd like to learn more about Environmental Health Practitioner degree apprenticeship or explore opportunities at the University of Suffolk, visit our website under Degree Apprenticeships for more information. Thank you.
Thank you.